The South African Digital Marketing Podcast is made in collaboration with Sean Lutz. Coming up in this episode of the South African Digital Marketing Podcast.
The world is moving faster than we could ever imagine.
You are laying down the gauntlet for agencies today. I love it.
We were in a space where agencies had to hide that they're using it.
If I'm paying you X, you're really utilizing that money to the most efficient way possible.
Back in the old days, which is literally 2025, right?
Welcome to the South African Digital Marketing Podcast. I'm Terrence Mentor, and I'm a digital marketer who's on a mission to meet the best, brightest, and most interesting marketers across the country. Today's guest on the podcast is CEO and founder of Lucky Hustle, Darren Morris. He recently wrote about the 6 trends that he thinks marketers need to keep in mind as we work on new strategies and campaigns that will actually resonate with audiences. Darren does not hold back in this episode, so let's get right into it. Here's Darren Morris.
I am Darren Morris. I'm the CEO and founder of Lucky Hustle. When you say where I am, are you talking about like my geolocation pin?
I need a pin. Send me a WhatsApp pin so I know exactly where you are.
So I'm currently in Paulshof in Johannesburg, South Africa. But I think on the more fluffy level, I'm I suppose in my 4th year running this business. That's, I suppose, where I am in life. And it's the greatest journey and adventure I've ever gone on. I've wanted to do this my entire life. I just needed the experience to do it. So it's been like working hard for years before I make the big jump. And then I made the big jump in COVID. And here I am today, kind of still, suppose, keeping the lights on.
I think there's a whole conversation there, just getting your experience of the last 4 years. And I would love to go into that. But actually, this conversation is really focused on something that you wrote a few months ago, looking at some of the big marketing trends, particularly like trends with marketing leadership for 2026. And cool. I would love for us to kind of grapple with that and get into that. I know it's still, we're in 2026, but these are some things that are going to be going on throughout the year and probably into next year as well. So maybe we could start by speed running through those six marketing trends. Can you kind of give us a high level about what they are?
Because that article was written a couple of months ago and things change daily in this marketing world, I've kind of shifted things around a little bit based on my experience of this last year, where we are in terms of like marketers and this industry. And I've still got my 6 trends, but I've reframed them. I can throw them straight at you. Are you ready?
Hit me. Yes.
Oh, so number 1 is the acceptance of AI, not the use of AI, the acceptance of AI. And when I say the acceptance of AI, I'm purely talking about marketers, specifically on the client side, accepting that AI is now a thing and not shying away from it, because it was almost like we were in a space where agencies had to hide that they're using it. And there was always like something shameful around, like I'm taking away people's jobs or I'm using AI for voiceovers. And marketers from an economical, financial point of view are kind of seeing that these tools are here to help us. So the acceptance of AI is my first one. And that is going to be the biggest trend, because once we accept AI, this industry is going to change for the good forever.
Wait, so if we can just stop there. No, let's stop there, because I'd love to jump into that. What I've also seen about this acceptance of AI is often now when clients are looking for agencies, they want to make sure that the agencies are using the budget, the spend as effectively as possible. And I think later on we're going to be talking about like how tight budgets are becoming. So marketing teams want to know, okay, if I'm paying you X, you're really utilizing that money to the most efficient way possible. So I guess that kind of leans into even more why you got to be like, actually, we are a team that uses AI, and we're not sheepish about it. We're actually kind of proud of it now in 2026.
100%. I think the traditional model, well, I'd like to say it's dead. For Lucky Hustle, it's dead. But for a lot of the time where we have to do quotes, and I still see this industry kind of doing their thing, is like agencies are quoting brands, by the hour. And it's just going to end up shooting them in the foot because of basically the AI that's come into place. So, like when I say the acceptance of AI, it's not just in terms of creativity, but also in terms of like costing structures in the sense of marketing should be an output-based approach when agencies serve brands. We are going to deliver X, Y, and Z based on your objectives. How we get to X, Y, and Z is completely kind of up to us, and that's where we use all of the tools that 2026 now has for us to utilize. And yeah, I suppose that's really what it comes down to.
So let's go to your second trend.
Our second trend is the need for same day content. Now, when I say the need for same day content, back in the old days, which is literally 2025, right? So back in the old days, i.e. weeks ago, there's this typical approach when it comes to marketing where something is happening and shoot needs to be planned and everybody needs to kind of, get around a table and have a pre-production meeting and have muffins and, send mails about mails. And literally agencies then go and put these whole big production things together with storyboards and all of that. And there is a purpose for that. Like there is a purpose for that kind of stuff. But the world is moving faster than we could ever imagine. And where brands are lacking that, your normal everyday consumers, when I say consumers, your Instagrammers, your influencers, where they are killing agencies is their fast turnaround delivery. Because let's say there's an event happening and all of these people go to an event. By the time the agency has put out a piece of content, number one, the internet has already moved on to the next cool thing, but everybody, aside from the actual brand, has told that story by posting content, posting reels, posting things about, things that are happening in real time. And slowly I'm seeing brands kind of take that up and take it more seriously. But it's something that brands are asking agencies to do, and agencies are slacking in that sense because they're so stuck in this traditional process-driven, unagile way of working that they can't deliver it. And then there's all these excuses like, yeah, but quality takes time. And it's like, it's all bullshit. It's all absolute bullshit. If you want to be a marketer in 2026 and run an agency and lead a team, you need to be agile enough to shoot something on a day and deliver it the same day, to literally keep up with your consumers. If your customers can do it, your agency should be able to do it. Come on.
You are laying down the gauntlet for agencies today. I love it.
That's the
because
truth,
we've
bro.
seen that, right? We've seen those brands where they're coming with a campaign that's like a year or two behind the times, and it's so awkward and uncomfortable and just where there's like, why do you have that rapper who was famous 5 years ago in your ad campaign? No one has even heard, don't talk to them about him anymore. And it's like when it really does feel like when it goes even like over the millennial's head and straight to the boomer, and it's like, your grandparents, this is what your grandparents think is cool, and they're making the ad campaign. But you're right, because that used to be, you had to be within a few years, and now you really have to be within a few weeks. And like you're saying, you actually have to get on it today with a lot of the trends, because tomorrow is not going to be a thing anymore.
It's such a problem to that point that we actually have in the industry where the people that are making the big decisions for brands and what brand campaigns should look like, they're all old. When I say old, because I mean I'm no spring chicken, to be honest. But nobody kind of like you said, we're using names and rappers and trends and all of these things that were relevant so long ago. Like the world moves so quickly, and a lot of the time you find Gen Z is the buzzword of 2025 and 2026. But you have these, like you said, these boomers and even these like older millennials that are trying to make decisions about what will work for Gen Zs. And it's only shooting them in the foot because, from a brand love and a brand recognition point of view, it's like that's where you see so many brands just flatline. And all of these, like brands that you're seeing, and a lot of them are far smaller brands that you're seeing, like almost like moms and pops kind of brands that are on a major come up, because there's no red tape around what it takes to approve that content. Literally, they're just making content because they understand their audience. They're talking to directly to their audience. They're literally delivering content in real time, like we spoke about. And you're seeing a major uplift in these type of brands. With the much bigger corporate brands, it's just kind of the same traditional approach, using the same faces and the same people, and it's boring and nobody cares anymore.
Because that's safe and you can't get fired for doing safe, but you also can't be successful doing safe.
That's exactly what it is. And I totally get it. You're in the corporate world, I suppose, to make money. You want a nice bonus at the end of the year. You're not necessarily invested in the next 10 to 15 years of the brand. You're invested in the next 10 to 15 years of looking after yourself. And that's okay in a sense, because we all studied hard so we could make a good life. But that's exactly it, that people, the amount of bravery that's in the industry is so minute, because people are really just worried about, can I just tick the boxes, put the TV ad out there? Does it say the message? Is it within the CI? Does it look pretty? And that's it. There's no, people are just way too scared to take risks. And I suppose I get it. I understand where they're coming from. I don't agree with it, but I get it.
Yeah, it's to the detriment to the brand, and I guess that's where big brands need to, like you say, figure out ways to become more agile. Let's move on though. I feel
Cool.
like that second point though, we could, there's a whole episode just on moving
Dude,
faster as a brand. There's a whole conversation there. But
100%.
let's move on to number 3.
Can I put number 3 and number 4 in the same kind of bracket?
Go for
Because
it.
all of these trends kind of have golden thread to them. So number 3 is breaking away from the traditional approval process, and number 4 is breaking away from the traditional marketing strategy. So I kind of want to block them together. And what I mean by breaking away from these traditional approval processes and strategies is very similar to, the thought pattern behind the need for same-day content is there are massive red tapes in the world of marketing. A brand wants to put something out, and then you've got all the people, around a table that all have something to say. And then that then goes back to the agency. The agency makes the changes, and then the work then goes to the next level of people that have something to say. And then the finance guy is now giving his input, and, procurement is now involved giving their input. And that's the traditional approval
Oh, don't forget
process, because
Legal is a huge holdup of all of these things as well. Got to go through legal.
legal, exactly that. But by the time work gets out, the core of it is dead. Like, if you look at, like, a lot of the time, and I've been on both sides of the fence, from the agency and the client. And if you look at, the original cool idea that agencies will kind of put forward to a client versus what actually goes out and gets flighted, there's a massive dip in that cleverness and creativity. And a lot of the times, the people on the different kind of levels of approval won't get the narrative, especially when it comes to, using certain figures or saying certain things in vernacular. They don't get it, so they bomb the ideas. And then what happens is, at the end of this funnel is really just another safe piece of work that's invisible. And when I say invisible, it's out there. People are throwing millions behind it to flight media and whatnot. But it's like a typical ad that you see on TV. It's like your brain staring at the screen, if not your phone. The ad plays and life carries on. There's
Yeah.
there's not much you see today where you actually stop, think, and even react, you know? And that's why I think the approval process kills it all in 2026, based on my second point, the need for same day content and AI and fast turnarounds. Um,
Yeah.
that process needs to die. And I'm appealing to any, CMO out there to really listen to this, and I suppose it's easier said than done to just say, trust me, but just to think about these points, because if you really are open to changing the approval process and changing the traditional marketing strategy, you are going to see such an uplift in all of your brand scores, from recognition to recall to brand building, as well as short-term sales results. Because it is proven, like Lucky Hustle is a data-driven agency, and we have seen this time and time again. If you follow the traditional methods, it ain't gonna work. Like the way that especially bigger agencies work now is the same kind of methodology that is from like the 70s and 80s. And because people kind of studied this in varsity, it's like there's no other way. They can't think out the box. So that would be my 3 and 4, is breaking away from traditional approval processes and traditional marketing strategies. Because it's old. Like, we don't even use the same phone, that was released 2 years ago, but these guys are still stuck on what they studied in varsity, and this is how the marketing process should run. Kill it.
It's like they were still sending faxes in. They were still sending their final reports in via fax when they were studying. And now we have to do the
Yeah.
other. The other thought I have about that is, with all of these kind of processes and deep strategy and refining, and like we say, like having a meeting, for the pre-meeting, for the actual presentation, all of that work, and yet the campaigns are still terrible. It's not like doing all of those processes mean that you have a high quality, and I'm not even talking about a creative campaign, because there are still ads that go out that I think, who approved that? How did that get through? How did that get through the layers of approval process that it would have had to have gone through? So you have these things that slow you down and aren't even effective at like protecting the brand. There's so many times I'm like, oh, that's going to hurt you. You've said something that
Yeah.
kind of is perceived as sexist or racist, or you've said something that's made you look like really old and backwards.
Yeah.
And yet you have these approval processes. So you've done a slow campaign and you still haven't done it right. And so definitely, I do think I love that idea of kind of breaking apart the traditional way of doing marketing. Do you think that, just on that 3 and 4, are
Mm.
there any easy wins? Like you were talking about that CMO who's like maybe trying to speed things up, become more agile. Is there anything in your experience where you go, almost always, this kind of thing is a roadblock? This particular process, this thing that we all do, slows you down and is unnecessary. Does anything come to mind?
Yeah, I suppose there are a few easy wins, but it like, just from my own experience, it's really about the people that you're working with. Because I mean, if you have it, I suppose if you have the right brands that kind of understand that they are not the target markets, um, and a lot of the time you'll have like CMOs who are not even on TikTok, Instagram. They've got their Facebook and they're on Twitter for like following finance people, and they don't understand, um, you know, they don't understand this fast-paced kind of rough, raw way of doing things. So I don't know. I don't know if there's any easy wins, um, but it's, yeah, I suppose hopefully just the next flow of people that kind of take over this industry understand this stuff. There's people being put in these positions all the time, and you'll see, especially in big brands, it's like the you know the head of procurement's now the head of marketing, and now the finance guy is now the brand manager, and it's like no one actually understands marketing and social media and all of that kind of stuff. So it's very tough to say what the easy wins are. But I suppose from a
But
macro level,
yeah, I mean, I do like what you say about what you're saying about like who you're working with and who's maybe on your team, which clients you're taking on. That's kind of a common thread through all of these conversations that I have with agency leaders, with marketing leaders, with even
mm,
marketers themselves. It's really about who you're working with. Like, are the people around you, even if the
mm,
process maybe is still old and fuddy duddy, but are the people around you willing to try new things? Have you got a team that's willing to try new things? And like you were saying, are your clients
yeah,
willing to maybe change their perspectives a bit? That relationships become very important in change management. I can imagine. Um,
absolutely.
but but now we've got, okay, so 3 and 4 were together. It's about it's the Breaking Bad section of the podcast, and now we're going to go on to five. Are 5 and 6 also together, or are they kind of separate?
They're kind of separate. I would say trend number 5 is about treating a brand or campaign almost like a series rather than a once-off piece of content, and that's something that I've really picked up. And we've actually got the data to back it from a campaign that we recently did. The normal approach when a brand does a campaign, or what it's been till now, is like kind of like, what's that big idea? What's the script that kind of flows with that big idea, and then like how does it look on radio and billboard and out of home and it's almost like a brand or a campaign is almost treated like a once off creation, and then it's just kind of like replicate that for as long as possible in the media space. What I would like to see more of, a trend that we are trying to do lots, is really treating your brand like it's a series, where it's not just one piece of content, whether it be video or static or whatever, that just kind of gets replicated. It's constant, almost like you're watching a Netflix series where your viewers want to see what's happening next. And a proof of this is, I think it's Disney, I could be wrong, but they're starting to put their movies out on TikTok as small little bite-sized, like 2-minute, 3-minute pieces, but you get to watch the whole entire movie. Because, for example, people's attention spans are, I mean, you know what it is. I mean, who can watch a movie now without looking at their phone 25 times? So people get to watch things in bite-sized fashion. And it's the same from a brand point of view. The brand takes that kind of thinking and doesn't just say, right, here's our 30-second ad. We're going to cram someone's entire life story into this 30-second piece, and we're just going to put it out there and flight it on every channel as possible, and then have cut downs. Rather create your full story, rather tell the full story that you want to tell, and break it up into multiple pieces of content that keep people hooked. Very, very similar to what, a lot of these influencers and YouTubers do, when it comes to like, if you want more, keep watching. That's exactly what. So to give you an example, one of the brands that we work with is Xiaomi. It's the Chinese mobile brand. People, when I say the name, people are like, "Who's that?" It's the
I know.
XIAO.
Yes, in fact, I have a Xiaomi Wi-Fi router in my room right now, so I know exactly the brand you're talking about. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So Xiaomi came to us and they said to us, okay, cool. Here's the next launch, and what's the event going to be, and what's the TVC going to be, and the typical what's the brand campaign going to be. And we were like, like your target market is Gen Zs. It's fine to put a nice launch event together and a nice TV ad together, and all of your bosses will, clap their hands and say, "Oh, great stuff," but you're not going to move the marketing needle. And we said to them, and quite crazily, I said to them as well, if this campaign fails, I'll pay you back every cent. That's how sure I was based on like the data and that's how sure I was based on the data and like the trends that we follow, that this campaign would work and would be successful. And I said to them exactly that. Let's create a story. Let's create one long story for your brand and show it almost like a documentary in little bite-sized pieces, a minute at a time, going over a long story about the brand and about the device. So what we did is we got a group of podcasters in the Gen Z space. We didn't tell them what they were going to be doing, but we picked them all up. We told them what to pack, and we surprised them by taking them to the hardest hike in South Africa. I think it was a 2-day hike in Drakensberg, getting to the Tugela Falls, and the whole kind of hook around it was, now these guys have, they've never even gone for a walk, let alone like gone hiking before, but this was more like a mountain climb. And the whole mission was, at the top of the mountain, we were going to record a podcast that was the highest ever podcast recorded in Africa, like a record-breaking podcast. And this all kind of linked together with the new Xiaomi device. Like the Xiaomi device is in these crazy terrains and capturing everything, because this device is like super durable and unbreakable and all of that kind of stuff. but it was a very different approach to the norm. Now, the norm being let's do a launch event and show the phone, and then everybody claps, and we have speeches, and then we do a TVC, and everything's beautiful and cinematic. We literally just took cameras, took influencers, took phones, and climbed a mountain and kind of let the story organically unpack itself. And then in the post-production phase, just released little bite-sized pieces that we released day after day after day after day after day. And long story short, this was the most successful campaign they've had to date, ever. The amount of engagement, the amount of people following the story till the end, there were multiple comments like, "This is the best ad I've ever seen," because it's not essentially an ad. You're now taking a brand from the typical ad space and now putting it into a space that people actually want to watch. It's almost like putting a brand into the space of Netflix, but in an organic way. And that's, I suppose, what I mean when it comes to my trend, by treat your brand like a TV show, like a series, rather than a once-off piece of content that you just keep flying and pushing in people's faces.
Yeah.
If you keep it like a series, just like any good series, people will watch it because they want to see what happens in the finale. And that's exactly what happened. We got to the summit and we filmed Africa's highest ever podcast, courtesy of Xiaomi, and it was beautiful.
That is such a cool way of looking at how to move forward with a lot of the kind of marketing that needs to be happening, because I believe that like storytelling has always been a part of most cultures. Like storytelling is part of kind of the thing that differentiates us from other mammals.
Yeah.
And a lot of that seems to be so lost in the way that we see a lot of what's happening in the marketing space. So I love that idea of like really investing in the storytelling, pulling people in by making something that's valuable. I mean, and that's the thing, right? It's you are creating value within the ad itself. You're not just talking about the thing that is valuable. Just
Yeah.
consuming the marketing is valuable, and I think more and more I see audiences wanting that. I think people want that. If I'm going to give you my attention, I don't want to give the opportunity to buy something. I mean, that's great if that happens. But if I'm giving you my attention, I got to get something out of it, right? I got to be entertained or made to feel something or educated. And that's entirely what that campaign was doing. You're giving value in every single 1 minute chunk.
Yeah. And to the earlier trends, we convinced the client, who's great, to remove those traditional approval processes of, does my product look nice in this frame, and do we have to have the product in every piece? And she was so cool about it, and she literally just said, to your point, just tell the story. Our product will organically fit in. And that's exactly what we did. We told the story. That product was part of the story. We didn't try and make that product the hero. It had its time in the sun. But the amount of, and I'm not talking about vanity metrics, the amount of actual, conversion and success we've had on it is literally record breaking, because we told the story using the psychology of, people watching a series, as opposed, because everyone hates ads, everyone hates ads besides us in the ad world. We're the only ones that like,
and even us. I mean, to be fair, I think I hate most ads. Most ads that I watch, I hate. So.
We're the only industry that tries to psychoanalyze, like what are the trends and whatever. At the end of the day, people hate ads. So don't make your ads look like ads and you'll be fine.
I guess it also comes with working with brands and brand managers that are really, firstly, passionate about their product, but also feel safe in their product. Like, we know that our product is great, and we don't have to try and artificially make them look good, because if we give our product to a bunch of influencers climbing up a mountain, we know they're going to be using the phone. We know they're going to love the phone. So we're not even going to try and force this issue.
Yeah.
I guess when people don't really believe in their own brand, that's when that kind of insecurity comes into play, and that need for control kind of takes over sometimes. But let's move on, because I have kept you for so long, and I've only booked you for a certain amount of time, and I'm already pushing my luck here. So let's go with your sixth one, your sixth trend.
This is a bit of an interesting one, and I thought I'd end it off with something fun, and it's something that we live by at Lucky Hustle, and it's bring your pets to work because they'll make life better. And I suppose that trend is it goes on many different levels, but at the core of it, I say bring your pets to work because it makes life better. And let me explain that. Let me unpack that a bit. Like, when I bring what I love to work, the culture and my workspace is awesome. I have a great time. I can never be around my dog and not have the best time ever. And I think through the ages and stuff, and especially visiting a lot of other agencies, and even corporate spaces, when people are unhappy, when work feels like work, or when it feels like you're working in a call center, and like everybody's just so following this factory model of doing things. When people are unhappy, they can never give their best work. And now you're asking creatives who are oddly weird, in their own right, to step into the world of corporate and just that typical working life. And that's why I say, like, for me, very much bring your pet to work, or if it's not your pet, almost make work feel like home. Make it feel like a space that whatever it is that makes your life better in the workplace. And this is where I'm talking to leaders and not necessarily employees, but allow your employees to almost make work be their home. And whether it is bringing your pets to work or literally allowing them to literally do whatever it is that makes them feel super comfortable, you will get the best out of them. And when you have happy employees, there is no greater gift to any business owner than having happy employees who love being there, because the passion that comes from that, literally, that's the stuff that wins awards, and not vanity awards, like real success, performance driven awards. And yeah, for me, it's bringing my pet to work, and I think that's exactly what the trend is. I know if I keep bringing my dog to work, I will continue to love the place I'm at, and I will deliver the best work ever. So that's my last trend. I know it's
I love
weird.
that. No, I
It
think
is what
it's
it
a
is.
fantastic. I think it's a fantastic trend because in previous iterations of the trends that you wrote, one of the things that we were talking about was kind of like budget constraints, and there's a lot of
Yeah,
constraints. There's a lot of things have to move faster. There's a lot of tension and anxiety in that. Um, and there are always going to be crunch times, right? There's going to be the week before we launch a big campaign, or when reporting has to happen. There's always the ebbs and flows of work, but it is easier to go through those tougher times if during the rest of the time you have leadership around you who care about the way you feel and who care about what your experience at work is like. You're always,
yeah,
I mean, that's been my experience when I have, as I do now, in case my manager listens. I know he does. You're willing to go that extra step further because he's got my back, so I'm going to have his back. And that's,
yeah.
again, that relational thing is so important.
That's exactly what it is. Let your staff be themselves. Let them feel like coming to work is literally a home away from home. And I know it's easier said than done, but if you do that, there is nothing greater than people that actually want to be there, that aren't ticking boxes. Because then again, like we were talking earlier about those typical corporates who just do what it takes to earn their salary and, tick the boxes and get the ad out. That's exactly what you're creating in a workspace if your employees don't feel motivated and they don't see the vision of the brand of the company. Is they just there to get paid. And that's fair. I totally get that. But if you can change that mindset of theirs, by allowing them to have a culture and be happy in their surroundings, they will genuinely start becoming passionate for the stuff that they do, and that's when you will see the needle change.
That's it for the SA Digital Marketing Podcast. A big thank you to Darren Morris for giving us some time to really dig into those 6 trends. You can keep that conversation going by connecting with Darren on LinkedIn. And remember, subscribe to this podcast so that you don't miss out on the next episode, which should be coming out in a few weeks. You'll find links to do all of that in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening. This was the South African Digital Marketing Podcast.